Hello, everyone. I want to begin today by acknowledging the incredible work of our post-secondary sector here in Ontario. Since as early as March 13th of this year, I have been speaking with presidents of colleges and universities across this province, and we have had one principal goal in mind, and that was to ensure the academic continuity for all of our students, to ensure that no one lost a year of study, provided we could do so in a way that would not in any way compromise the health or the safety of any of our faculty, our staff, and of course, our students. I'm so humbled by the incredible work of our sector, and I want to take this opportunity to offer my most sincere thank yous to the faculty of all of our institutions for the incredible work that they have done to ensure that we can maintain that academic continuity for our students. Our faculty worked around the clock to ensure that courses could be delivered online so that students could continue their year of study and complete it successfully. You've heard the Premier say before that we were able to successfully transition over 100,000 examinations for courses online in a matter of weeks to ensure student success. And I cannot underscore how important our faculty across all of Ontario has been in ensuring that that could be done. So to our faculty, I offer you my greatest thanks. I'm very, very pleased to be able to announce to you today a framework for the reopening of our post-secondary sector. Because unfortunately, not all of our students were capable of completing all of their course requirements online. You'll hear me refer to some students as academically stranded students. These are students in high labor market demand areas that would have graduated by now if only they could have attended in person on their campuses to complete some final lab or practicum requirements. These students in areas such as nursing, PSWs, engineering students, and many, many different trades programs. These individuals could be working today, helping in Ontario's economic recovery, but for the fact that they must complete a mere matter of hours in some cases of in-person learning. So I'm very pleased to be able to announce that we are announcing here today a framework to reopen the post-secondary sector in Ontario, and that will begin as early as July 2nd of this year, and the program would conclude by September of this year. The students who would be able to participate in this program, as the first element of the matter I want to discuss with you today, are these academically stranded students. And they would be able to participate in this program over the course of the next several weeks, as indicated, and that would allow them the opportunity to graduate. The second element of this pilot is that we are speaking about a mere hundreds of students. And there is approximately 10,000 students across the entirety of our sector that would be able to avail of themselves of this program. The final element of this program is one of the most critical, and it's with respect to the health and safety protocols that were involved in it. We worked together with our sector through numerous consultations and discussions with presidents, coming up with a number of health and safety protocols we believed that the sector could follow, and that would ensure the health and safety of every person who would attend on our institutions and campuses across the province of Ontario. We brought that information forward to the public health measures table, and we've received the approval of the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and as well have brought this forward to Minister of Finance Rod Phillips' Economic Recovery Committee, and the program has been approved to be launched. This is incredible news for our post-secondary sector, and I believe that we will be able to build on our best practices and lessons learned through this pilot so that we can look towards a more fulsome reopening of our sector in September. As a final element of the announcement that I want to discuss with you here today, we know that the way we deliver education must change in a post-COVID world. We look at how we have delivered education, and you've heard me say this before, and I will say it many, many times again. We know that our advanced education, research, and science innovation sector in Ontario is among the very best in the world, known worldwide for its excellence. But through the process of COVID, we have learned that there are some areas that we can improve upon. And we want to build on the lessons learned, and we're going to engage in a fulsome consultation process again with our sector over the coming months that we will conclude at the end of August, at which time we intend to reveal the results of our consultation and complete some of our policies that we believe will help transform our sector with a new path forward for post-secondary education in Ontario. We want to ensure that when we come out of COVID, that our post-secondary institutions, our advanced education, research, and science innovation sector is still the best in the world, and in fact is strengthened and further enhanced as a world-class leader in post-secondary education and research. We no longer live in a world where after 40 years you retire from a position with a golden watch. People will change careers and professions numerous times in their lives. And we want to be able to work with those individuals, and we want to be able to focus on new markets for students and learners. Persons who already have a job and perhaps want to enhance their education. Persons who have families at home and would not be able to avail themselves of the typical opportunities of going to school for a 3 or 4 year program in a usual traditional setting. Programs through virtual learning and micro-credentials to give these students an opportunity to continue to improve their educations as they move forward and change their professions and look to continuously improve in a world of continuous improvement. And finally, you've heard me refer to commercialization and intellectual property on a number of occasions, and I will do so again on today's occasion. We know that we have one of the most advanced research sectors in the world, and never again will the people of Ontario fail to reap all of the benefits that they can through breakthroughs in research that happen in Ontario and that are funded by Ontario taxpayers. With that, I will conclude my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the phone line for questions. First question.
First question comes from Haley Cooper from News Talk 1010. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Minister Romano.
Hello, Haley.
I'm a little unclear on what this announcement is exactly. So you mentioned that some post-secondary students will be able to complete their year by participating in classes July 2nd to the end of September. So who are these students, and exactly what will that look like for them? How will they participate in these classes and complete their year?
So the specifics of the program I will try to summarize. Essentially, any student who would have graduated by this point, but they had to attend on campus to complete certain lab, practicum, or other in-person training. So as a simple example, we were able to deliver courses online, many courses online, but if you think of a program like, for instance, welding, we can't expect somebody to be able to pull their welding kit out in the middle of their living room floor to be able to complete those course requirements. So those students in that type of a situation would have to attend in person. We have nurses, for instance, nursing students who have a mere 12 hours left of hours that they must complete practicums in their campuses, and they would be working today. So these students would be permitted into the program. We're going to launch as of July 2nd because we need to give some lead time to the institutions to be able to obviously notify all of the students, the faculty, the staff, and get ready to be able to put the health and safety protocol measures in place. And then the students would be able to commence the courses. Through the course of all of our discussions within the sector, we learned that we would require approximately 4 weeks, hence July 2nd as the starting date, to be able to get ready. And then they would need up to 8 weeks to complete the programs of study as the worst case scenario throughout consultations with the entirety, again, of the sector. And by that point, we would be reaching the beginning of September. And that would go back to the principal goal we had in mind that I discussed that we had spoke with the sector about back on March 13th, which is ensuring that no student lost their year. And that is the purpose of the program. And I believe it will work very well to help our sector as we move forward to a more fulsome reopening after the pilot has concluded. We'll be able to build on best practices, lessons learned. It'll give everybody an opportunity to see how it will work having students back on campuses again. And obviously we want to ensure the health and safety of all of our students, our faculty, and our staff that are going on our campuses. Hope I have answered your question.
Yes, thank you. My follow-up is, are there going to be any, because sometimes these classes can be quite large, are there going to be any restrictions put in place by how many students can be in a class or a lab at one time?
The overarching principle is ensuring that the measures that we've referred to since the start in terms of social distancing of a minimum of 2 meters are going to be in place. So there will be screening measures at the door of every institution to ensure that only students, faculty, or staff that must absolutely be on campus are permitted on campus. And then the social distancing requirements will be maintained throughout. Obvious rules that we've always referred to with respect to sanitizing and proper use of equipment and facilities will be maintained. All of the usual health and safety protocols that we've been speaking about since the beginning will be in place. There will also be one of the most unique elements of this protocol or pilot is that there will be peer-to-peer monitoring that will be utilized, and whether that is students who would receive some form of course content or whether it be volunteers or workers within the institution would act to monitor and enforce the social distance protocols.
Next question.
Next question comes from Mark Douglas from 680 News. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Romano,
Thank you, Mark.
This was quite a surprise to see you up there by yourself today, and you do find yourself suddenly as the only spokesperson for the Ford government today, and we extend our best wishes to the Premier, the Minister of Health, and the Minister of Education. They, of course, are all now going for COVID-19 testing. This has just been announced. All this because the Minister of Education had come into contact with someone who had tested positive. Can you describe for us, please, just the shock, the impact within your own government cabinet when this information became known?
Well, thanks for the question, Mark. I actually just learned about this a matter of minutes before coming up to the podium, so I certainly can't speak to what anybody else is thinking. I could tell you that I know our Premier is acting out of an extreme abundance of caution, and he wants to ensure that everyone on the premises here at Queen's Park is safe, and this is simply a measure being taken out of an abundance of caution given the nature of the circumstances that we find ourselves in.
Follow up.
Thank you, Minister. To your announcement then today, so this seems to indicate to me that online learning is not going to be complete enough to get a full education. You've got this special program now for some of the students who simply couldn't get their lab work done, that sort of thing. Is this going to shed some light on how you rethink, on how the government rethinks using online learning for at least post-secondary education? Is this sort of unveiling a flaw in the system?
Well, Mark, I appreciate the nature of the question, and I will say this to you. We have approximately 600,000 people in our post-secondary sector across all of Ontario, and out of all of those 600,000 students, the only ones that were not able to complete their year of study and who will now be able to complete their year of study is a number of approximately 10,000. We know the movement that post-secondary education is moving in. Virtual learning is not something that has only come about over the course of COVID. This was happening even before COVID. We were working on policies around this prior to COVID in approximately the last calendar year. A number of institutions around the world have been offering virtual learning, and very advanced institutions across the world have been doing so for quite some time. In short, my answer to you is virtual learning is an additional tool that will allow us to expand into new markets. And as I referenced at the end of my opening comments, when you think of people who may want to go back to school, are they going to be able to go into traditional settings and take a 3 or 4 year degree program when they have children at home that they must continue to feed, jobs that they must continue to go to so that they can feed their children and pay their rent? But with the access to virtual learning and programs such as micro-credentials and transferability of credits that we are going to be working on, we can ensure that all of our students and all of our learners across the province have access to our world-renowned post-secondary education programs. So I believe that this is a way for us to further enhance and entrench our position as leaders, global leaders, to enhance and entrench our brand as global leaders across the world. So I hope I've answered your question.
Next question.
Next question comes from Mike Crawley from CBC. Please go ahead.
Hi, sorry, Minister Romano, just for some further clarifications about the situation for Minister Lecce and Premier Ford and Minister Elliott. Could you tell us what you know about the situation with Minister Lecce?
Thanks for the question, Mike. Good to hear from you again. It's been a while. I would have to refer you to the Premier's office with respect to that specific. Again, I alluded to that in my previous question or my previous response. I learned the information that you've heard here today a matter of minutes before coming to the podium. So I would refer you to the Premier's office.
Follow up.
Okay. Could you tell us what precautions have been taken by members of Cabinet around potential exposure to cases of COVID-19?
Well, I think it's fair to say that as members of Cabinet, we are no different than anyone else in this province, and we've all been following the social distancing protocols, and we all continue to do so, washing your hands regularly, avoid touching your face when you go into public. If you can't avoid 6 feet or 2 meters of distance from other people, ensure that you're wearing a mask. I could tell you that just on the precinct here at Queen's Park, I understand that the rooms are disinfected at the end of every night and the beginning of every day, door handles, the podium, and anything that we would come into contact with. Those are the types of protocols, though, that we would expect across all sectors, and certainly are some of the health and safety protocols that are part of the program that I'm announcing here today. And those are protocols that we discussed with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and these are the protocols we know to be the most effective in ensuring the safety of all of the people of Ontario.
Next question.
Next question comes from Laura Stone from the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead.
Hi, Minister. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Laura. How are you doing today?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
Look, I appreciate that you only learned of the situation involving the Premier and the Health Minister, as you say, minutes ago. But, Minister Lecce was up there yesterday standing in person with the Premier and the Health Minister. So how concerned are you that that staff or others working at Queen's Park could have been potentially exposed to this if his results do in fact come back positive?
Well, when I see the reaction that has been taken by the Premier out of an abundance of caution to have me come out and speak to you on my own here today, I have a sense of confidence that we are acting with the health and safety of every individual on this precinct, all of our staff, all of the media, everybody that's here, to ensure that health and safety is maintained, and that we do everything in our power to maintain everyone's health and safety. So I feel very comfortable as I stand before you and hold on to this podium and drink my water that my safety and the safety of all of us here is the #1 priority of our Premier and of our government, and I am very comfortable being here chatting with you now.
Do you think with the province now able to conduct more tests, that public officials such as yourself, the Premier, people who are out in the community more, doing more public events should be tested on a regular basis? Would you commit to weekly or bi-monthly testing, and do you think the Premier should as well?
I think it's important for all of us to be testing and ensure that we get as much testing as we possibly can done at every opportunity, especially if we're coming into contact with individuals who may have been in contact with someone with COVID or may have traveled. I think it's important that we stay on the testing. It's one of the most critical tools we have to ensuring we can monitor our numbers and stay ahead of this pandemic.
Last question.
Last question comes from Christina Tanelia from CP24. Please go ahead.
I hope you're well. I have a question specific to you about somewhat to your announcement today. I've heard from a college professor recently who says, who's concerned about possible layoffs. He says some colleges will not be enrolling new students in the fall due to COVID-19. That may result in layoffs. Is there any merit to that? Is that what's happening at universities and colleges across the province?
Thank you for that question, Christina. And I think obviously COVID has been a very, very difficult and challenging process for everyone. Is there the potential of that occurring at some of our institutions across this province? Our institutions are autonomous, and they can conduct themselves as they deem appropriate, obviously following the nature of the protocols and the rules we have. I believe that our sector is working very hard. I believe that this reopening plan will allow some certainty to our institutions as well as students and perhaps high school students and other learners across the province who are contemplating whether or not to submit deposits right now, as this is the time where acceptance letters are currently being signed and returned to institutions, and first initial deposits are due. So I believe in the coming weeks we will learn a lot more with respect to where the enrollment numbers are across all of our institutions. But I think it's fair to say clearly we're in a situation where COVID is a very challenging time, and it's going to be difficult for so many different sectors and areas and businesses, and colleges and universities are businesses at the end of the day that provide academic services to students and learners across the province, and they're not immune by any means at all from the challenges surrounding COVID. However, I believe that the work that we have done and the work that we are continuing to do will help the sector greatly as we move forward. And I believe that looking at new and enhanced markets is an excellent opportunity for our institutions to avoid some of the struggles and the challenges that COVID has brought about.
And really quickly, since we have you here on the topic today, is there anything you can or will do to protect professors and educators who may be caught up in, for example, colleges and universities using COVID-19 to streamline their budgets in some capacity, with them saying, sorry, can't afford you, we have to lay you off?
Thanks, Christina. That's a very fair question. And, we have incredible faculty. You heard me say at the outset of my comments that it was our faculty who worked tirelessly, especially in the weeks after the pandemic first hit and the emergency orders were put in place to ensure that our students could get access to online courses. I think we have the most incredible faculty in the world right here in Ontario, and I believe that they are owed a huge thank you for the incredible work they've done. I mean, our institutions are autonomous, and what we will commit to doing is what we've continued to do from the start. Have frequent consultations, discussions, stay very close with the presidents of all the institutions across all of our institutions, and do everything we can to ensure that our post-secondary institutions can continue to deliver world-class education to our students. And by doing so, I believe that our faculty will be able to continue to do the amazing work they do, delivering that world-class education.
Thank you.
Thank you.